I was reading that 64 and this album was like peak Beatle mania. The film certainly contributed to that. This track certainly contributed to that because it was a #1 hit in both the UK and the US. We are tracking the growth of this band. I say we. Well, you guys are involved in this. Myself, particularly, I'm very interested in the growth of the artists, the songwriters, the songwriting duo. And this is really interesting because this is a Paul McCartney-led written track. So the first two have been John Lennon ones. I was saying previously in the other albums that I'm listening to, I feel like Lennon was slightly ahead at this time. And compared to McCartney's songwriting skills, McCartney for me tended to write more songs that were simplistic looks into teenage love almost. And he was a very young man at the time. It's probably why. And everyone needs to go through this kind of apprenticeship period. So let's see where he's at this moment in time. Here we go. This is Can't Buy Me Love by the Beatles.
Can't buy me love, love. Makes you feel alright. I'll get you anything, my friend, if it makes you feel alright. Cause I don't care too much for money, but money can buy me love. I'll give you all I've got to give if you say you love me too. I may not have a lot to give, but what I got I'll give to you. I don't care too much for money, but money can buy me love. Buy me love. Everybody tells me so. Can buy me love. No, 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 no. Say you don't need no diamond rings.
Okay, so growth. We've spoken about growth with Lennon's writing. There's certainly the same here with the melodies, the sound of this thing. Everything you can see is kind of taking an uptick in terms of quality, even subject matter, you know. This is better now. Can't Buy Me Love. It's a little bit more complex, more darkness in this thing. But speaking of darkness, to me, Paul McCartney represents like purity. It's always something like kind of joyous and pure about his sounds and his writing to me, always.
And I'll be satisfied. Tell me that you want the kind of things the money just can't buy. I don't care too much for money. Money can buy me love.
The dropout. I love that kind of, I always say like English wit, but it's just a really quirky way of phrasing things. Now, if you've ever been to Liverpool, very witty people, really, really funny people, right? Funny cities, humor comes very easily, and you can hear it in the writing, even just, again, the phrasing. Can't Buy Me Love. It always just has an interesting twist to it. Again, it's early inklings of what is to come, essentially, of how they stretch themselves and how far they go. But it's little things like that you could look into.
I don't care too much for money. Money can buy me love. Buy me love. Love. Buy me love.
I like it. Cool song. One thing I wanted to highlight as well, this owl bit, right? I've seen some of their live performances. This is the bit where they like shake their hair and the girls go nuts. I think he's like purposefully putting these parts in where you can have a crowd reaction. So again, meta, the idea that the songwriter is sitting there thinking about how you can entertain the crowds that are listening, even during a live performance with things like this. Really interesting. Cool song. Growth from McCartney. Very cool to see. The second track in today's video features some semi-autobiographical lyrics. Now, this is kind of what I've been looking for from the writing. I was always more curious about them leaning away from kind of the more basic stuff that they were doing earlier on. And this is certainly the case with this John Lennon written track. So let's see what this one's all about. Here we go. You Can't Do That by the Beatles. Very different sound.
I got something to say that might cause you pain. If I catch you talking to that boy again, I'm gonna let you down and leave you flat. Because I told you before, oh, you can't do that.
That was a cool moment.
Well, it's the second time I caught you talking to him. Do I have to tell you one more time? I think it's a sin. I think I let you down. Let you down. And leave you flat. Gonna let you down and leave you flat. Because I told you before, oh, you can't do that. Everybody's green. Cause I'm the one who won your love. But if they'd see
Little moments of brilliant melody.
you're talking that way, they laugh in my face. So
Okay, 2 years on from the very early version of them that I heard, took them 2 years to figure this thing out, figure out the formula. What's the algorithm? How do I make like perfect pop music? And they're doing it here. Clean sounds, a cleaner, polished instrumentation too. Melodies are more advanced, more interesting. They're doing interesting little bits, like the end of this track, end of this paragraph where they went bop bop bop. Little parts of melodies sprinkled in that are interesting. Now the writing. This is a track about like jealousy and paranoia of a girl that Lennon is with, right? The purity. I talk about the purity of McCartney's. For me, thus far, listening to the music, Lennon is always the opposite. There's like a hint of something more. The jealousy, the paranoia. This is like a huge hit single. He's talking about "I'll leave you flat." I don't think he actually means like violence, but to bounce and leave a girl kind of stranded. Interesting.
please listen to me if you wanna stay mine. I can't help my feelings, I go out of my mind. I'm gonna let you down. Let you down. And leave you flat. Gonna let you down and leave you flat. Because I told you before, oh, you can't do that. Oh. You can't do that. 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 Everybody's green. 'Cause I'm the one who won your love. But if they'd seen you talking that way, they laugh in my face. So please listen to me if you
Interesting. Everybody's green because I'm the one who won your love. Green meaning jealous, right? But if they'd seen you that way, you talking that way, they'd laugh in my face. So he's like worried about how this would look in terms of his like persona. I was reading about the song that is semi-autobiographical. I guess this is like about a young love that he had, maybe when he became famous, and he's in the States or something like that, and he's hearing rumors of his girlfriend like running around back in Liverpool. Maybe is what I'm taking away.
wanna stay mine, I can't help my feelings. I go out of my mind. I go and let you down. Let you down. And leave you flat. Gonna let you down and leave you flat. Because I told you before, oh, you can't do that.
Cool. Very, very cool to hear kind of the polished pop music of the time. That sounded like a hit to me, man. Designed to be played on radio stations and whatnot. And then like kind of trying to compare it to anything that we've got going on. And there's certainly things that sound similar because I'm sure that they took from the ideas in this song and in this album and things that this band did, but there's certainly a polished nature to this record that I'm getting that comes through, which the early ones didn't. That very first album was all captured in one day, man. That was all one recording session, so I imagine it was like rushed and hurried. And this sounds like they had more time to do things, to make the sound, the mixing, the sonics of the music come together. Just one more shout out I've got to make to Harrison, George Harrison, because he is starting to shine through with his guitar playing. You know, they're giving him moments of being able to do a solo. And I think it's called a 12-string guitar that he plays. It's got a great tone, man. I don't know, I guess the musicians will let me know. Like, a tone that you can get out of your instrument, I'm pretty sure it's signature to who you are, right? You get out your own unique sound from the guitar, even though it's the same instrument. So I think it says something about you when your tone sounds a certain way, you know? It has a certain spirit to it, uplifting. Cool stuff, man. Let's see where we go next. 2 more tracks from this album.